Hi guys, I wanted to do a pregnancy update. I'm out of breath and I'm not even doing anything. This breech baby has her head like right up in my lungs. Anyway, so on Saturday I'm going to be 35 weeks pregnant. So I'm 34 and a half weeks pregnant right now, as it's since Wednesday. She's doing a lot of wiggles in here and it hurts pretty bad. So yeah, I'm 34 and a half weeks pregnant right now, and I had an OB appointment today. Baby girl is still breech, as I expected. She's just not interested in trying to, come out the more convenient way. And I did have my mind pretty set on a repeat C-section, but then after seeing my OB today, I kind of just felt like I wanted to attempt an ECV. So an ECV stands for eternal cephalic version. That means that you have a procedure done where a doctor pushes into your belly with their hands and tries to turn the baby from breech or transverse, whatever position they're in, to head down so that you can attempt a natural birth. And originally I was just really put off the idea of an ECV. I declined it with my first pregnancy because I know that there is a risk of the baby getting distressed and needing an emergency C-section. And the last thing I ever wanted, oh my god, do you see the weird shape here? It's just really strange. I don't know what she's doing. Oh god. Originally, I just didn't want to risk an ECV because I wanted to avoid an emergency C-section at all costs. And I knew that going into an ECV there was a risk that baby could be distressed and I would need a very rushed surgery, and it just was something I was trying to avoid. However, after speaking to the doctor today and getting all the information, I've decided to go ahead and try an ECV because I'm honestly terrified of having another C-section. My first was so traumatizing, and I know that even if the ECV doesn't work, I'm going to have a C-section, but I want to be able to at least say that I tried to turn her head down, and if the ECV goes well, then I can at least try a natural birth. The thing with the ECV is that, what was I going to say? It's gone out my head now. Oh yeah, the thing with the ECV is the worst thing that could possibly happen is honestly you just need an emergency C-section. So if I'm trying to avoid a C-section and I'm doing an ECV to try and have a natural birth, the worst thing is just still having a C-section. So why not? So I guess the risks with an ECV is basically you could essentially distress the baby by trying to move them, and they could have what's called, I think, a brachycardiac episode where their heart rate drops. And he said basically 90% of the time when that does happen, it just goes back to normal and you either continue the ECV or stop. And it's really rare to actually need to have an emergency C-section. That's only if the baby's heart rate doesn't go up fast enough. And in that case, he said that they would still probably have time to give me a spinal block and I wouldn't necessarily have to be put to sleep. And even if I did have to be put to sleep, which was my worst fear because I'm very sensitive to anaesthesia and my mum is, the doctor has been really thorough and he's going to try and get me a blood test to find out if I'm allergic to one of the agents in anaesthesia, because that would explain why I had a horrible reaction to the spinal anaesthesia before, and it means that they will be much more cautious and use different ingredients in both my spinal for a C-section and general anaesthesia if that's required. It's really scary just being put under and losing control of your body. I've never gone through it, never been put under, but I'm just at a point where I'm just like, my biggest priority is to live and to have my baby survive. And if a general anaesthesia is required in a life or death emergency, I'm not going to refuse it. I'm just going to let them put me out, no matter how scary it is. Because, you know, apparently the anaesthesiologists at my hospital are very, very experienced, and I'm just going to trust that I will wake up and I will be safe if that's a necessary thing. I'm really out of breath. So I will be having an ECV in just over 2 weeks. I am 34 and a half weeks, so I'll be 35 weeks. Oh, I will be 35 weeks. Oh my gosh, I wish you could see this, but I'm like not at the right angle with the camera. I'll be 35 weeks on the weekend. And the doctor wants to do the ECV at 37 weeks, just in case an emergency C-section is required, so that A, there's less time for baby to turn back, and B, baby's full term. Another thing though is that I did naturally go into labour with my daughter at 36 weeks, and the doctor said, unfortunately, if my body does the same again before 37 weeks, it will be a case of having another emergency C-section, because they won't do an ECV if you're in labour. So I'm sort of hoping this baby holds on till 37 weeks, but I'm just not sure if they will. Anyway, he did really reassure me that even if a C-section was required, that I was in good hands and that I would be well taken care of. It was kind of like anxiety provoking hearing all the risks of the second C-section and how it's much more serious, there's much more risks for bleeding, scar tissue, and all of that. But there's just no getting out of it. Like, there's no point in having like a big mental breakdown about it, because this baby has to come out of my body, right? I can't just avoid the situation and be like, well, I'm not going to do this. Like, you know, the baby has to come out. The baby has to be delivered. So even though it could be the scariest thing in the world, like, I've got no other option. I've got to go through surgery or an ECV or whatever happens. And I just have to, you know, relax and hope that everything goes well, because I can't determine what's going to happen. Being anxious won't make things go any better. If things go horribly wrong, the biggest thing I can do is just try to relax. Anyway, baby girl is doing really well. We did have a bit of a concerning growth scan, because my bump measurements from the tape on my belly were 5 weeks behind. So I ended up having an emergency ultrasound to distinguish whether she had restricted uterine growth. But thankfully, everything's okay. She's quite small, in the 16th percentile, but they said that's totally fine and not to worry. So she's just a little baby, and yeah, so I'm really hoping that ECV goes well. She goes head down, and I can attempt to be back and have a natural, healthy birth. I think my next update will actually be when I do the ECV after it. So I think this weekend I am going to film what's in my hospital bag. I was going to do it last weekend, but I was waiting for some things to arrive, which arrived, and I need to put them in there and just go through it. But yeah, in the next week or so, I'm going to do a what's in my hospital bag video. Then I will do an update on how the ECV goes in a couple of weeks, and, you know, let you guys know. In fact, I could even be telling you the baby's here if I end up having a C-section. But yeah, so this is hopefully not my last pregnancy update, but possibly, I'm not sure. And I hope everyone's doing well. This baby is just, oh, I don't even know. Their head is like right here. That's why there's like a swollen lump here. And their butt is down here. Oh, and in terms of weight gain, I'm now like 180 pounds. So I've gained 26 pounds since pregnancy. I don't know why, I always just get really big at the end. I'm like really slim through the first and second trimester, and then like the last month I just get quite chubby. But I know like 25 to 35 pounds is all normal, and I've only gained 26, and I only have a 5-week max time frame till I give birth, so I really don't think I could gain more than another 10. So I'm not too concerned, and I'm gonna try to be really healthy after birth and get weight off. So yeah, see you guys soon.